The Cape Breton Victoria Regional School Board is a public school board that provides services for over 16,000 students in more than 56 elementary, junior high, and high schools, as well as 185 adult learners and 4 adult education sites. I teach at Glace Bay High, situated in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. The goal of my research was to address the obesity epidemic that is part of Canadian culture. I did this by speaking to teachers in non-physical education classrooms about the ways in which they incorporate physical activity into their non-phys ed specific classrooms. The research suggests that a lack of physical fitness in early ages leads to so many problems such as type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, risk factors for cardiovascular problems, anxiety, depression, and low esteem. It's important for teachers across the curriculum to share best practices and collaborate with each other to address these problems. Furthermore, the research suggests that beyond just being physically fit, physical activity allows students to be more collaborative, allows them to become more purposeful in their decision making. It also encourages them to be more self-evaluative about their abilities and allows them to work better in almost all their classes. The research followed Creswell's characteristics of action research. It had a practical focus. It would involve the educator-researcher's own practices. It involved collaboration. It became a dynamic process. A plan of action is being formulated, and there will be an attempt in the end to share that research. The process involved 2 steps, a pre-interview questionnaire as well as an interview. The pre-interview questionnaire was an attempt to find out some context for each teacher, how long they'd been teaching, where they'd been teaching, their subject matter, and such things as that. The second part of the interview was the really difficult part. It was the interview itself. In this interview, I asked teachers about some of their best practices, but also tried to get at their values in terms of physical fitness in the classroom. Did they think it was part of the curriculum? And if it wasn't overtly as part of the curriculum, did they think it was valid to insert that where they saw fit through their professional judgment? The following are some examples from some of the interviews. A general English class teacher and social studies teacher had spoke about how the students became more energized constantly when he was taking them outside, but he did receive a great deal of resistance from his administration. Every time he went outside, they felt he was just playing or wasting time. Another teacher I spoke to was an English second language instructor who said that when you're working with ESL students, that doing various workshops that included physical activity allowed them to communicate clearly with their teacher, allowed them to become more energized and focused, and allowed them to communicate equally with all the other speakers. Physical activity, I guess, to her, was a universal language. Another teacher I spoke to was a technology teacher. This teacher very much wanted to incorporate physical activity as that was an important part of his life. He did, however, find it very frustrating to find ways to do it and looked for opportunities to share best practices with other technology teachers. Furthermore, another teacher I spoke to was in student support, working in a high-needs learning center. This teacher suggested that for many students, physical activity was a way of evening the playing field and giving them a great deal of confidence. If they struggled in math or in language arts, including physical activity in the classroom made them feel a great deal of success. Acknowledging physical education in the classroom truly reflects an understanding of multiple intelligence theory. Another teacher I spoke to in the general classroom had said that when working with students, using physical activity in the classroom, whether it's role play, such as in a law class, or acting out historical events, allowed students to have a break from sitting in desks. It allowed their blood to flow. She described it as re-energizing and reawakening these students. All of these interviews reflected the most common detail was that all teachers that I spoke to wanted to include physical activity in the classroom. And furthermore, all teachers looked and yearned for more opportunities to collaborate with other teachers and to hear best practices. It seems like it's something everybody was interested in developing. Another finding was that math, science, and technology teachers do find this more challenging than other subject area teachers. Another emerging finding from the action research was that a teacher's attitude towards physical education in a general classroom was reflective in many ways of their attitudes about the value and the point of education in the first place. Rigid curriculum people were not as flexible, obviously, as those who believed that getting to the outcomes involved being creative in their approach to how students are being assessed and how they're being instructed. And I think this was a reflection of the strength of the research so far, and that it was so open-ended that it allowed teachers to go in different directions with their answers. And this was a result of the interview technique, I believe. The main weakness was the strength, ironically. I found it very, very difficult to conduct the interviews because in the end, I had so much material that it was so difficult to go through and find the commonalities, the patterns, and analyze it. It's very difficult to develop an interview technique. It's something I didn't realize before, but I certainly found out. I'm discovering that there's a great deal to be gained from action research for teachers. Primarily, it allows us to find out more about our practice and how we can change it, but it'll also really directly connect us to other teachers that we work with. We don't get enough chances these days to collaborate, and as we all know, that's one of the number one needs that all teachers have, further collaboration. And it is action research because in the end, hopefully, we share this information just in the same way we're sharing it tonight. But I think obesity is something that all teachers have to address in their classroom. This reconfirms that belief I've had, but it also shows me that there are other teachers who are doing it in really creative ways as well, addressing this issue. In conclusion, I'll say that this was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, doing the interview process. Conducting it, going through the material. Didn't think it would be that difficult. But in the end, what it has done is inspired me, not only to look at the subject matter in a new way, but also to look at some of my colleagues in new ways too. It really brought us together.